Seahawks legend Richard Sherman has sounded off on your Seattle Seahawks, hitting on a number of topics, everything from the quarterback position to the offensive line, and you, the fan base, the 12s. We will let you hear directly from Richard Sherman and react to his recent comments from the Amazon Prime NFL analyst and host of the Richard Sherman Podcast on the Volume Network here in just a matter of moments. Tyler Jones here with you. Thanks for joining us. Before we go any further in today's show, folks, want to make sure you subscribe to Seattle Seahawks today. And I want to set a record for more subscribers on today's video than any video for the rest of this month. The most subscribers we've gained on a single video is 103. Not bad. But I believe we can get 150 off today's show. If you want more Seahawks coverage, from our daily news and rumors to live shows every week, watch parties and game days, breaking news, Q&A mailbags, and more, subscribe now. Let's set a record. YouTube.com/SeahawksTV to subscribe now for free. Richard Sherman, the former Seahawks star corner, the future Hall of Famer, he shared his thoughts on where this Seahawks team is at after the loss to the Green Bay Packers, and he had a lot to say on his podcast. So let's start with what he had to say about the quarterback position. And he was very complimentary of Seattle quarterback Geno Smith. But one point that he made specifically was he believes that if Geno does not come back from this injury that he suffered against the Green Bay Packers, that the season is virtually over, that they cannot get to the promised land of the postseason. They will not be able to win the necessary games they need to if they do not have number 7 under center. Let's start with this from Richard Sherman. Geno Smith, if he doesn't come back, I think that's a wrap for the Seattle Seahawks. To lose him is a critical blow, and people don't appreciate him in Seattle. Quote, we need to replace Geno. We can do so much better than Geno. And that was basically what he was saying, is that this Seahawks fan base does not appreciate Geno, was the point he's making there. And I'll say this. When I look at what's ahead these next 3 weeks, luckily for Seattle, it does seem like, at the time of this recording anyway, that Geno is on track to give it a go this week, and hopefully he stays healthy from there and he plays through the pain and all that. So that's a good sign to start. But as the point that Richard Sherman was bringing up, based on what we saw from Sam Howell and just how unprepared he was for the moment last week and what he's done in his career compared to Geno Smith, it's hard to imagine that things are going to be any better with Sam Howell under center, that Sam Howell can be the difference, that he can push this team over the edge to win these big games over the next few weeks. And credit where credit's due. When you look at the 3 years that Geno Smith has been the starter for this Seahawks team, Geno's won some big games, and he's been very clutch in some crucial moments down the stretch with almost as many fourth quarter and overtime comebacks in the regular season in the last 3 years to Patrick Mahomes, folks. That's how good Geno's been in those moments. And with how close these next few weeks should be, there's a drop-off between Geno Smith and Sam Howell, and I can't imagine Sam Howell making up that gap and that Seattle can get to the playoffs without Geno Smith in that sense. They got to have Geno these next few weeks. Do you agree with Richard Sherman's assessment here? Can the Seahawks win without Geno Smith? It's our pinned comment today. Type Y for yes and for no. Way in the comment section. Tell us what you think. Today's show is sponsored by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the place to go for daily fantasy made easy. Here's how it works. Choose 2 more players on any given category. Get the choice of more or less, whether you're talking fantasy points in football, rebounds in basketball, goals in hockey, all sorts of different categories to choose from. Football, a big deal this time of year. You got the college football playoffs about to start. You also have just a few weeks remaining in the pro football regular season. And you can right now, folks, win up to 1,000 times your money. And with Prize Picks, if you put $5 down, you can get $50 to spend for free. You don't have to win to get the money. I'm looking ahead to the college playoffs beginning this weekend. I'm going with my guy, Nico. of Tennessee to have more than 19.5 rushing yards. I'm already calling it a big upset. Tennessee over Ohio State. Suck it, Ryan Day. Will Howard, I've seen a lot of Will Howard over the years, dating back to his days at K-State. He'll throw an interception. You better believe it. I got the more on that half interception. If I put $20 down and both these hit, that turns into $60 on Prize Picks. Play along with us. PrizePicks.com/CLNS. Promo code CLNS. The link is in the comments and the description of today's video. Prize Picks, proud partner of Seattle Seahawks today. Glad to have him on board here on today's show. Let's go to the offensive line now of what Richard Sherman had to say about the O-line. And Sherman made the point that this offensive line is doing this team no favors right now, that the O-line is not giving this team a chance at all. Sherman saying the following: I've been telling you, behind this offensive line, who has struggled most of the season, it's tough for any quarterback to be successful. This offensive line gave up 7 sacks today. That's tough. Some of them were on Sam Howell holding the ball too long, but literally the pocket crumbled in front of him and around him. Now, you think about this. There's only so much Geno can do with this offensive line, right? With the limitations that are there, that is going to hinder the success of what a quarterback can do if he doesn't have time to throw the football. And yet, we've still seen Geno play at a relatively high level this season. The same cannot be said for Sam Howell of when he took over on Sunday night. And when I look ahead to the offseason, and believe me, we'll have plenty of time to talk about the offseason in the coming weeks. We're still enjoying what we have left of this season, whether it's a few more weeks or potential playoff run, whatever it may be. But when I look ahead to 2025, John Schneider cannot sit idly by and not fix this offensive line. I know that John Schneider doesn't value the guard position, and he said that publicly. He doesn't like to pay guards. He doesn't like to draft guards high. That's got to change. You have to evaluate what you're going to do with the center spot. We saw Olu get a little banged up, right? Jalen Sundell had to come in, and, of course, we know what happened with Connor Williams retiring midseason and everything like that. Because the results we saw this past week, folks, I mean, hide the women and children. I was talking to Smitty about this earlier today. I have never in my life seen a lower pass blocking grade for one player than what I saw from the Rook Lumea on Sunday. A 1.6. 1.6 pass block grade. Yikes. Big yikes. And that's just part of the story. Laken Tomlinson wasn't good. Sundell wasn't good. Abraham Lucas was solid. Charles Cross was solid. But man, oh man, what a mess that this team was dealing with here with this offensive line this past week. And you hope that there's a light at the end of the tunnel, that they make some major investments this next offseason, because this is just not sustainable. You're not going to win a lot in this league if you do not win at the line of scrimmage first. And no one's more to blame for Seattle being in this situation with the lack thereof on the offensive line than John Schneider himself. Here we are, and he's just refused to invest, and it's the number one thing holding this Seahawks team back, and that's got to change going forward. Who is to blame for the O-line struggles this year? Is it bad coaching? Is it the players? Or is it the puppet master, John Schneider? I think it's John Schneider that's to blame. Who do you think is the one to blame for the O-line struggles this year? Weigh in and let us know. Last on Sherman's takeaways, one of the things that Richard Sherman pointed to was the atmosphere on Sunday night at Lumen Field. And we know that when the 12s are rocking, there's no better place in the National Football League. We've seen some incredible moments over the years from the Beast Quake to when they broke the record for loudest stadium in the NFL, and all sorts of great moments. Sunday night was not a great moment with Packer fans all over the building, and that's not the first time that an opposing fan base has taken over the stadium this year. We saw it in the Bills game a few weeks ago. Small market teams doing this too. More from Sherman. Let's let him hear it let's let you hear from him directly. This one hurts, but the most discouraging part was probably the "Go Pack, Go" chants that you're hearing in Lumen Field. That's something I don't ever remember hearing. I don't ever remember hearing the opposing team's chants in our home stadium. But that's a different story for a different day. Now, I'll say this. The landscape in Seattle has changed a lot in recent years. You had a lot of people move out of the city during the COVID-19 pandemic that said enough was enough. They didn't like the way the policies were put in place with the mask mandates and how the city was managed in that COVID era, and that drove a lot of people out. You don't have as many of the diehard Seahawks fans living in Seattle that can make it to games that you did years ago. And with that, along with what we've seen just with where the economy is at in Seattle and with where the prices are at in tickets, there's a number of factors involved that led us to this point. And it's going to take a lot if we're ever going to get back to the way things were before in Seattle. We're going to have to get those diehard fans back. The young guys and gals are going to have to be invested in this, much like their parents and their grandparents were. And maybe the younger folks aren't as passionate about this Seahawks team. Maybe we've grown to adapt to watching games on television and staying at home and watching Sunday Ticket and doing all that. Maybe Seahawk fans have spread out too much and are living across the country instead of coming home to Seattle. Those are all factors involved here that could be a difference. But to see Green Bay just take over, I mean, look at this goofy dude. I mean, wearing a chain and a hat and such. What's he even doing there? Lower level seats? That's probably a season ticket holder's seat that was sold to him. You season ticket holders, I know it's easy for me to say because it's not my money. But my goodness, like, we got to find a way to stop selling tickets to Green Bay fans. If you can't make it to the stadium, make sure another Seahawk fan gets to go. And maybe the organization needs to get involved with help from the ticket companies, like maybe Game Time or Ticketmaster or whatever it may be, maybe some zip code protections or whatever. But, I mean, it's gotten out of hand, and that's got to change if we want to get back to the way things used to be at Lumen Field. Has Lumen Field lost the magic? Have they, in all honesty? What do you guys think? Type HY for hell yes, HN for hell no. Weigh in, let me know in the comments section. For continuing Seahawks coverage, subscribe now to Seattle Seahawks Today, youtube.com/SeahawksTV. I'm Tyler Jones. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.